Welcome to A Founder's Life. I'm your host, Leo Gestetner. On this show, we dive into the real stories behind the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and how we pursue a more balanced and meaningful life along the way. This podcast is sponsored by Thanks, helping founders like us scale with reliable remote talent. I'm excited today to be joined by Mike Schroeder. Mike, thank you for joining. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Mike Schroeder, and I'm the founder and president of Roundstone Insurance. And it's nice to be here with you today, Leo.
Well, thank you. Do you want to talk a little bit about the journey that brought you to where you are today, and then a little bit more about what you're actually doing for your clients?
Yeah, the journey really goes back to when I was a kid, and I recognized that folks that had their own business had more money than my family had. So I always thought to myself, if I wanted to do some of these things these other folks are doing, go on vacations and drive nicer cars and that kind of stuff, I might want to figure out how they did it, how they came about to have their own business. And I just kind of paid close attention to that. And along the way, I kind of learned that, when you work for yourself, whether that's shoveling driveways of removing snow or cutting lawns or, a whole host of different things I've done over the years, you can make some money. And then I went off to school and I went to college at Tulane University. And that was just a very fortuitous event because Tulane is an interesting place. A lot of the students come from families that own their own business. It's a very entrepreneurial school, regardless of what you're studying, not just the business school, but there are kids there that are in pre-med and pre-law, but they come from families that have their own businesses and all different types of businesses, everything from real estate to, media and so on and so forth. So I was around and kind of learned from folks at Tulane University about being an entrepreneur and owning your own business. And I went on to, school and law school and worked in corporations. But the whole time in the back of my head, I really thought, man, if I ever have a chance someday, I'd like to start my own business. And so when I had that chance after spending 15 years in the insurance industry, I jumped at it.
Excellent. And what does the business do that's different to your competitors or better than your competitors?
Yeah. So, I've always been in insurance and I've always been in the self-insurance side of things, what folks call captive insurance. And captive insurance, regardless of the coverage, offers folks three things that are different than traditional insurance. You tend to get more information, more data when you're in a captive. You get more control, certainly. And lastly, since you own the insurance company, you get the savings, the underwriting profit or the surplus you keep. So those three basic benefits had never been brought to health insurance before. They've been applied to workers' comp and medical malpractice and auto liability, a lot of property and casualty exposures, but never to health insurance. And so I just thought, hey, why can't some of those advantages be brought over and offered to employers providing health benefits? So 21 years ago, that's what I started. That was the business idea that I came with. I took a very well-established insurance principle of self-insurance or group captive insurance, and I applied it to the healthcare system we have here in the States where employers provide benefits to the employees. And that's to this day, that's what Roundstone does. We insure thousands of employers throughout the United States, and we run and insure their health plan for those employees.
And are you actually providing sort of the insurance coverage or you're more maintaining plans for them?
No, we assume the risk. We provide the coverage. We issue a policy known as a stop loss policy, which pays claims over a certain dollar amount for that employer. But yeah, we take on the risk of their health plan. It's all through insurance layers, which gets into the weeds. I won't bore you with that, but we're on the hook for the claims, if you will.
Interesting. And tell us a little bit about how family looks for you.
I've been married for longer than I've had my business. I've been married for 32 years, and Molly and I have 3 children. They are now young adults. My son is 30, and my oldest daughter is 28, and then I have a 23-year-old as well, another daughter. So most of my life, everything I was doing with the business was really for their benefit and for their opportunity. And it's turned out well, but that's been a lot of fun raising those kids. And I'm fortunate to say that 2 of them still live in our area. And so last night we were eating outside and enjoying the beautiful weather. And my youngest is overseas studying. So she gets home in a week. But yeah, family is what it's all about. Would I have worked as hard and spent as much time and been as persistent as I've been with this business if it wasn't for them? I think the answer might be no. I probably would have taken an easier route.
Definitely gives you a different perspective.
Absolutely. Your life changes when you get married and have children. The day that you have that first child, it's no longer about you, and your life is really about making sure you take care of them. At least that's the way I look at things. And my life changed for sure that day that Jack showed up.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. And tell me a little bit about how health looks for you, whether that be mental health, physical health, nutrition, sleep, however you look at these things.
Yeah, and I think those things are all tied together. I exercise regularly. I guess they call it weight training. I think it's probably better defined as resistance training. I do that 3 days a week and then do aerobic stuff the other days. And for me, that is mental health. Spending an hour in the morning from 7 to 8 a.m., like I did this morning in the gym, to me, clears my head and gets some good chemistry going in my body. And so I really tie those things together. And I enjoy it. I like to do things like golf and I like to hike. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you can't do those things effectively. So my objective is to try to stay healthy. I've coupled that with diet because I had a trainer one time tell me you're never going to outwork your diet. And so I do pay attention to what I eat and how I eat it. And then on the mental health side, yes, the physical activity helps with that, but also just having quiet time and time away from the business and opportunities to reflect. And I was raised a Catholic and I am religious in that I do believe that it's very helpful to be grateful. And I frequently spend time reflecting on the blessings and the gifts and the gratitude I have. And I have that gratitude for God. And I vocalize that and I tell myself that on a frequent basis. I'll on simple things like if it's a sunny day, how grateful I am that we have a nice day. But I do think that from a mental health point of view has been a very helpful area for me. That gratitude and that faith in God has really helped me out.
Makes sense. And what do you like to do for fun?
Well, I love to golf. I was at the PGA Championship in Philly this weekend. I like to watch golf. I like to play golf. I like to hike. I like to go out to nice dinners with friends and family and also have dinners at home. So, I would say food, golf, and hiking are probably my fun activities. I like to travel. I like to explore new places. I don't know. I'm named after a fellow who came here, my great uncle who came here from United States, from Ireland. And the story goes is when he got here, he dropped his sister off at some relatives in Youngstown, Ohio, and then jumped on a train and and told his family, I'm going to go see what this new country's all about. And he spent the next 2 years riding trains throughout the United States. And I think that adventuresome, explorer attitude, I must have inherited some of that. So my uncle Mike, and I'm named Mike as well, we like to travel. We like to explore. He's long gone, but, and I'm not riding trains. I travel a little differently, but yeah, I like to travel. It's just the whole world is such a beautiful spot.
Did you know your uncle?
No, I never met him. He passed before. I knew his sister who he brought. That was my great grandmother, and I did know her, but he had passed prior to Ira.
And if you look at those different aspects of your life, how do you find balance across them in some form, some equilibrium?
Yeah, I think you have to stay focused on it. And I can feel when things are tipping, when I'm burning the candle at both ends, or if there's too much stress. And, I'm pretty cognizant of it. So I pull away, I back off. It's something you struggle with as a founder of a business, knowing when to let go, knowing when you've kind of reached your max. And that changes as you age, as you get older, your capacity is not what it used to be. So just being aware of that potential and then having that time of peace and quiet. And, if you look at my activities, Travel is, along with reading, is a great opportunity to sort of reset your equilibrium and set your balance between what's really important. And so I think that's kind of I would say my secret sauce for equilibrium is I do travel enough, and that gives me that quiet time to reflect and not get too fixated on one. I'm not going to mislead you. There are times that the word that my wife uses is ruminate, and there's times she catches me ruminating, and that's where I'm getting too fixated on, most likely the business.
Yeah, I always say to people that to me, balance is not permanently in balance because none of us are. There's
Yeah.
times that we've got to work 20 hours a day and, there's a deal that's happening or there's, a problem or there's an opportunity, whatever it is. There's times we've got to do that. There's other times we focus on family, but it's that sort of overall balance. And what for you has been a pivotal moment in your life?
Pivotal moment in my life. When my father passed when I was a senior in high school, and within 3 months, I was going to school 1,000 miles away. And at that point in my life, I could have made a choice to not do that. And that ended up being a really, really good decision to go to Tulane University. I opened so many doors. I met so many people. I learned so much. But you can imagine how difficult that was for my mother to take her oldest child 1,000 miles away and say, hey, make a go of it. So I'm glad I pushed through that. I'm glad I stayed the course. There was lots of folks that thought I should have maybe not done that, stayed home. But from there on out, I gained a lot of confidence that I could essentially accomplish what I put my mind to. So that I think that was a pivotal period of my.
What is one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur?
I one time had a fella when I was working in a law firm, and he owned his own business, and we were talking, and I shared with him, hey, someday I'd like to be in your shoes, and he said, when you do, you have to give it your all. You have to basically give it your best effort. Whether people will tell you it's healthy or right, it will become your life, and you will think about it always, and you'll always be working. But if you give yourself into that business, it'll succeed. And so if people go into being an entrepreneur because they think it's less work, or if they think it's, easier, or they're going to have more free time or all that kind of thing, then I would tell them pause a moment, because this is going to become, very, very important to you. Yes, you're going to have your family and your children, all that, and they're equally or even more important, but any free mind space you have is going to be on your business. You have to get comfortable with that. It's even to this day where I have a great leadership team and hundreds of employees that are doing the day-to-day tasks, and it looks like I have all the time in the world. The reality of it is I'm constantly reflecting on things we could do different or better, how to improve, how to grow. And so it never leaves you, and you just have to get comfortable with that. You're going to always be thinking about, even on those trips where I having that balance and that equilibrium, it's still in the back of my mind. I might wake up in the morning with a thought for the business that I have to capture.
Yeah, I often say to people, if you're just looking to make money, get a job, you'll probably make more money and it'll be a lot less stressful. Maybe long term, you'll make more money, hopefully, but in the short term, medium term, you definitely make more with getting a job. It'll always take mind share. And in the end, as the entrepreneur, as the founder, the buck stops with you for the good and the bad, and there's a weight of that.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment. I had someone tell me that one time, like in discussing the business, they almost presented it as a negative, like, well, and now it's all up to you. Well, yeah, but I'm okay with that. And there's another way to look at that. I'm also the one that gets to make the decisions. I don't have to live with decisions that someone else made that I don't agree with. So, hey, I'm more than happy to take accountability and responsibility if I'm the one that's making that decision. So that never scared me. That never intimidated me. But I know some people, it scares them to death. And it just, my personality, that doesn't bother me.
I've never had it phrased that way, but I think in the end, you've hit the nail on the head, which is if you're not happy with the buck stopping at you, don't be an entrepreneur.
Right.
Because there's all the upside that goes with that as well, but there's lots of downside. I mean, I had someone on my podcast, I don't know, a few months ago, probably last year now. She was like, yeah, in COVID, she's got a nice, profitable, decent business, but in COVID, she had to get a double mortgage and had to, the staff carry on getting paid every month. But they don't have all the stresses. But, in the end, you got the stresses. Now, yeah, hopefully there's upsides that go with that as well.
I believe in the decisions I make. I'm passionate about the business and our mission. So I'm comfortable living with the decisions that I make I'm a big believer, like, to be a leader is I really spend a lot of time trying to create the environments that other folks can make decisions and execute. And so that, not every decision is being made by me, but when ultimately the buck still is going to stop with me based on the environment and the decisions that happen out there. So I think you're right. I think that's a good filter as to whether someone should be an entrepreneur. If you're worried about being accountable, forget about it.
And thank you. I appreciate you joining us today, and been great to hear your views and your journey.
Well, like any business owner, your favorite thing to do is to talk about your business. So it's an easy conversation, and I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. And how can people find you?
Roundstoneinsurance.com, or, Mike Schroeder, Roundstone. I'll come up in a variety of ways on, whether you're Googling it or nowadays with the AI tools, but roundstoneinsurance.com is a good spot to find me.
Well, thank you. And thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, tell your friends, and leave a review.